Wow, class action waivers. That's how you start a game. To the surprise of no one, the little drummer boy is back, and absolutely dying for you to hit him in the face. Look at him. His hunger for pain is insatiable. So much so that he's not just giving us one game this time, or two, or even three, but 2 games in one package. That means double the fun and double the screaming. Taiko Rhythmic Adventure Pack is a remaster of 2 3DS games that attempted to infuse the rhythm gameplay of Taiko into a JRPG setting, now unshackled from its Japan exclusivity for the first time ever. And if you're wondering whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you probably clicked the right video. As I said before, the biggest difference between these games and your dad's Taiko games is that these two feature a full-fledged RPG adventure mode. The story of both have an extremely similar setup. The first has you teaming up with a time-traveling rabbit to save the world from some hooligans, while the other has you teaming up with a teleporting wizard girl to save the world from some hooligan-agains. One of which, who is a witch, has gross mouth eyes, probably why she's not wearing contacts. Both stories are cute, I guess, and have their fair share of funny moments, but are overall about as deep as a puddle and pretty much only exist to give the game some sort of structure. They introduce new characters every 5 seconds, and none of them are very interesting past their looks. Like this guy's personality is being an abomination, and this talking monkey only ever mentions that he doesn't like being called a talking monkey. I'm not sure why anyone in this universe is surprised by a talking animal anyway, when there's talking musical equipment standing right next to them. Basically, the story never takes itself seriously, which is fine, but it's also not very interesting on top of that. The best I can say about it is that it exists, which is more story than most rhythm games have. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about how these games actually play, starting with the first title of the two,
Taiko No Tatsujin.
This game is split up into multiple levels based on different time periods and locations, like feudal Japan or Dinosaur Place, as seen in the movie Dinosaur. You take control of Don, who has the amazing ability to walk 1 mile an hour through linear 3D environments. The visuals are pretty simplistic, but I actually really like how it looks. The low poly 3D assets mixed with the 2D characters reminds me a lot of the first Paper Mario game, if it wasn't good. Like many JRPGs, you'll encounter random battles anytime you're out on the field, but instead of a turn-based system, these battles play out with the solid rhythm-based gameplay that Taiko fans are used to. Since Don already gets beat up for pleasure, he has the ability to randomly recruit any enemy as an ally to fight for him. You can have up to 4 monsters on your team, and their stats and element determine how much damage you can deal or take while playing the rhythm game. They also sometimes come with special skills that can make the gameplay a little easier. You can buy most skills at shops and teach them manually too, so it's easy to get the ones you're after. Another function of shops is finding new outfits for Don to wear. This was a feature missing from the last Taiko game on Switch, and by far my favorite addition when comparing the two. There's an insane variety to unlock, ranging from cute to cursed. You can even change the color of his entire body. Look, he's wearing human flesh. Aww. Fortunately, the cosmetics only appear during songs and not in the overworld, but that's not a huge deal. Now that the basics are out of the way, here's all the reasons this adventure mode sucks. While I really like the designs of the monsters, I have to say that they add almost nothing to the game. Aside from some minor stat differences here and there, they are completely interchangeable with one another. I mean, if it mattered, why would they have a random button? Doing well at the rhythm game is way more important than any of the RPG elements that the monsters or clothes provide. So if you're good at the rhythm game, everything else seems pointless. It can be a little fun to optimize your dream team, but overall the monsters are like stickers, mainly just there to look at, and also to hop back and forth. Menacingly. Speaking of battles, they happen way too frequently. You literally cannot walk for 5 seconds without a battle starting up. They do load quickly and usually last less than a minute, but this creates another problem in itself. Since each area tends to only have 3 or 4 songs assigned to it, you end up hearing the first 20 seconds of the same few songs over and over again. And this really starts to add up because most of the game consists of walking down long stretches of linear pathways with a 2-second detour here and there to grab a chest. What little exploration the game has is also pointless because every chest is marked on the map for you. There was a cool Monster Hunter reference that was sort of hidden, but that was definitely an outlier. As a whole, variety in gameplay could use some work. Aside from the occasional puzzle here and there, most chapters play out along these lines. Meet a new character, walk somewhere, read some dialogue, walk somewhere else, and then fight the boss. I've honestly had more exciting trips to the bathroom. The bosses play exactly like normal fights too, with the only difference being small graphical effects that attempt to block your view. But at least they have more health, so you get to hear the song for longer. I should also mention that there are side quests, if you can call them that. One features a man who claims to be my uncle asking for a massage, a situation I deal with quite often. It's a fun sounding mission, but in reality you're just playing a random song over a generic backdrop. Shouldn't they have a unique animation or something? Or at least have the guy standing here instead of a scarecrow? All of the side quests are like this. They have special win conditions like reaching a certain combo before the song ends, but that's about it. And to top off my disappointment, I played a song to make this dog dig a hole, and when I failed, he said he didn't love me. I didn't even know that was on the table. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Rhythmic Adventure 1. But what about the sequel? Well, it actually improves upon most of my complaints with the first game. It is still extremely similar and not great by any stretch, but I'll quickly go over what makes it better. First, they revamped the monster system. Now each monster is assigned a type, like attack, defense, or long range. And you can have up to 9 in your party divided into 3 separate rows. Only certain types work in each row, so setting up your team kind of requires some strategy now. Barely. The rhythm game portion is still 90% of the focus. But that aspect got changed a bit too, with the addition of Taiko Magic. Basically an equipable super move that charges as you play. It can be pretty useful in sticky situations. The amount of monsters and outfits is also higher, with more little nods to other games and series than before. And because they pass out monsters like candy on Halloween, you can dispose of your useless friends by inserting them into your cooler friends, such as life. The biggest improvement by far though, is how they changed random encounters. And by that, I mean they're not random anymore. Evil spirits now pop up in the overworld that activate a battle after being touched. You can also launch your drum buddy at the spirits to stop them from chasing after you. Not only does this help with not getting interrupted every couple of seconds, but it also gives you a little something extra to do while traveling. And the problem of repeatedly hearing the first 30 seconds of a song is improved a bit too, because only red ghosts play real songs, while black ghosts play more generic battle music that doesn't get as repetitive when played multiple times in a row. There's still not a whole lot going on in the overworld though. Side quests are still whatever. Occasionally, some people will now ask you to bring them back a certain item. That would be fine and all if they gave you some way to keep track of who asked for what. The way it is now, you just have to remember and go back to them eventually. Lastly, the bosses have mildly improved the second time around. They're more challenging and the visual gimmicks are more involved. For instance, this muscle magic man physically moves your playing field over with his sweaty body, making it harder to predict notes. It's not a huge addition, but it does help bosses stand out more from normal monsters. Now I wanted to bring up the controls for a second. In the separate Taiko mode included with these games, you have 4 options for controls. Buttons, which work fine, motion controls, which are pretty much worthless on harder difficulties, touch controls, which I'll comment on later, and physical drum controls, which are good if your favorite genre of music is plastic murder. Now in a previous review I said I don't like touchscreen controls because I don't want to get my Switch dirty. Well, since then I've learned how to wash my hands, and I've got to say that this is my favorite control scheme by far. It works very similar to the physical drum, but without drowning out the sound of the actual game. Guess it depends on how much you like drumming with your fingers though. Anyway, I brought up the controls because strangely enough, the story mode for both games locks you into button controls only, which is kind of a bummer because like I said, touchscreen controls are more enjoyable for me. I'm sure there were a good amount of people who were hoping to play this with the $80 drum they just bought, and a few misguided people who wanted to play with motion controls. Hopefully that gets patched down the line. The drum line. To finish things off, let's talk more about Taiko mode, the mode you actually want to buy this game for. If you've ever played a Taiko game before, you know what to expect. Pick from a list of over 130 songs ranging from J-pop to video game music, and try to get a high score while drumming to the rhythm. I know I've complained a lot up until this point, but I only have 2 complaints for this mode. One is that the song list is divided between both games in the pack, so you have to hop back and forth based on what you want to play at the time. I feel like they should have just combined the menus. And second is that unlike Taiko Drum and Fun, also on Switch, there are no multiplayer options to speak of. Kind of a bummer. On the plus side though, the single player content is obviously stronger here. Putting aside the 2 adventure modes, there are tons of achievements to complete, which unlock new costumes as well as sound packs that change how your drum sounds. There are songs to unlock as well, but pretty sure it's only boss themes from adventure mode. It's kind of hard to pick a score for this game because the most advertised feature, the adventure modes, leave a lot to be desired, mainly the first one. Meanwhile, the tried and true rhythm game modes probably have more content than ever when combining both games. So I guess what it really boils down to is, are you looking for a single player or a multiplayer experience? Because as a single player game, this is probably the best Taiko title to pick up. With that said, I'm giving Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythmic Adventure Pack a B-. Mediocre story modes aside, it's still a really solid rhythm game. And that's all anyone can really ask for. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next video.